Welcome back to Podcasting for Your Spiritual Business. I'm Kim Parkinson, and we are continuing the podcast basics series this summer. One of the things that I want to just reiterate here is that a lot of these are based on my experience as a podcast host, as a podcast producer, as someone that's been in the industry for about 6 years and then had my own TV show prior to that for about 5 years previous. So this is just accumulation of things that I have learned, I have gone through, I have done. It doesn't mean that there aren't other pieces out there that may fit your lifestyle and your podcast better. It's just some suggestions that I have that maybe you haven't thought of before. And I'm here to just kind of maybe enlighten you to those particular things. Today, we are going to be talking about podcast hosting because let's face it, if you've listened to the last two, you know that we've got the gear, we've got all that hardware, your microphone, your headphones, your lights, maybe if you need it. And then we talked last week about your recording software, where you want to record, whether or not that's just directly into Zoom like I do, or if you wanted to use Zencaster or Riverside or any of those, right? There's nothing wrong with any of them. It's just what I'm giving you from my experience. And today I'm going to talk to you about podcast hosting. Now, there are 3 of them in particular that I have pretty extensive knowledge on, and we're going to talk about those. And then there are a couple of others that I have just kind of briefly touched. But again, there really is no right or wrong for podcast hosting. So if you have a hosting platform, as long as you are able to get your podcast up onto that platform, you are able to create an RSS feed to be able to distribute out to podcast distribution platforms, and you are able to maybe get your stats. That would be the ideal piece there. Those are, I think, the big 3 that I would be most concerned about when you are looking at a podcast hosting platform. So what is a hosting platform? That is the place where you take your audio file or your video file that you have created and you upload it to this platform. And that platform then, based on the date that you select, because you can usually schedule them out. I don't know if any that you can't schedule out. I think you can schedule them all out. Based on the platform that you select, you can schedule that for a future date, or maybe even just publish immediately. Some people do that too, and that's fine. Those platforms then will send out your podcast to all of the different podcast distribution platforms out there. Now, there are a few things. You will need that RSS feed to then go over to YouTube, plug that into YouTube. There's a whole little thing there. Podcast won't automatically pick up your RSS feed at this time. Things could change, of course, but as of right now, they do not do that. So you'll need to make sure that you do that. But otherwise, once you have inside of your hosting platform, usually there's a little section that says like distribution or something like that. You go there and you basically say, distribute to all or something. A lot of them that I use do exactly that, distribute to all. So you want to make sure that you just click on that button when you first set up your trailer or you first set out your first episode and whatnot. And then once that is up there, every time you release an episode, you won't have to do that again. It'll just automatically go up every single time, which is great. After you have done your first trailer episode, I highly suggest within an hour to 24 hours to go and check on a couple of different platforms to just make sure. And then occasionally I will go in and just kind of just do like a spot check on clients and my own podcast and just make sure that those distribution platforms are still aggregating my content, are still pushing out my content. Sometimes things get broken. It's tech. And I'm recording this on June 29th and Mercury's just gone into retrograde. So you just never know. So just double check every once in a while if you have the time. And sometimes that just means maybe at the doctor's office, opening your phone and just looking at a different podcast platform, Spotify or Overcast or whatever you like to listen on, Podcast Addict, something, and just making sure that your podcast actually gets posted to those platforms. So that's that. But that is heavy lifted usually by your hosting platform. Again, like I said, things can break, but for the most part, it's hosted. It's the heavy lifting is done on your hosting platform. So that also inside of your hosting platform, you would then put in the title, your show notes. You would actually put in your cover art. You put in all that stuff first, and then every episode you upload, you then put in the name, the show notes, and all of that too. Although some platforms will allow you to have like a baseline where like you can always have the same link put in. You can always have the same content put in at the bottom. That is really cool. You can absolutely do that. I think Buzzsprout and Captivate both do that. I'm not sure about Libsyn, but Libsyn's coming a long way. I only have one client currently in Libsyn. And let me tell you, it's a huge jump from when I first started with Libsyn. They look totally different. So they're always renewing and upgrading and doing new things. And of course, now, more recently, within the last month and a half, the new thing is the HSL feed, which is basically if you upload a video, then that will push that out to Apple for video, and I believe Spotify for video. You still have to upload to YouTube for video, but at least those videos are up in the other platforms. I've not done that. And part of that reasoning is I don't know that I am seeing a huge number increase in videos. So that's something totally different that we'll talk about later. And the cost could be prohibitive for some people as well. And I'm really happy with my audio only, although I do know this series I'm doing as video. So if you're listening in audio and you wanted to go watch that, it is up on my YouTube channel. Okay, so what hosting platforms would I like to talk about today? So let me talk about the one that I use the least, and then I will increase it to the one that I use the most. So the first one that I use the least for clients is Libsyn. Now, Libsyn has been around a long time. They've been the benchmark of podcast hosting for a very, very long time. And it is, I believe it's Liberated Syndication is what it's short for. And it just basically is a great platform for getting your podcast out there. Now, their pricing structure is a little weird. Their pricing structure, I think, is based on like how much you put up there, but not by hours, but by size of the file. So sometimes people get a little confused about that because they're like, well, I don't have that big of a file, but like I need to, well, I don't have that long of an episode, but apparently my file's bigger. It's just a weird pricing structure, in my opinion. That doesn't mean that it's right or wrong, just the way they do it, right? And people have been happy with it for a long time. So go with that. Now, one thing that I have not noticed, although it did pop up more recently, is that it's not as easy to add in dynamic ads, and there's no monetization unless you have so many listeners, so many followers, so many whatevers, so many downloads. So they're coming along, but this is the one I use the least, I will say. And the one podcast that I do use with it isn't interested in dynamic ads or any kind of monetization that way right now. So it could be that I haven't explored that deeply in that particular platform. Libsyn is a great platform for what you have. It has a really low tier pricing point. So if you have a really short podcast or you're only doing occasional podcasts, it could be a really good option for you. You're priced per podcast. So if you have more than one podcast, you would pay multiple pricing points for different podcasts that you have on there. But the stats are really great. The analytics are really great. You can, it stores all of your audio files like all of the other hosting platforms. And you can update your show titles at any time. You can update your show name at any time. You can update your show description at any time. All of that is really cool. It does also have right inside of it, if you wanted to put a special podcast graphic, it's right there. It actually connects to Canva. So there's a lot of great features for Libsyn if that is the direction that you want to choose. Now, the other one that I have a lot of experience in is Buzzsprout. Now, Buzzsprout is really user friendly. It's actually kind of like a fun platform to look at behind the scenes because they just really made it super user friendly to look at. Now, the stats there are great, are amazing. They don't drill down for the stats that I have found by comparison. I don't believe they have. I'm trying to remember the last time I did stats. I think I had to go and look at each one individually. Now, it does have something on it that is kind of unique to any of the other platforms, and that is magic mastering. And that just basically is updating your file so that it has like an audio cleanup already built in. Now, I do a lot of my own editing and I do editing for clients as well. And so we've already done that. So I'm not sure the effects of the magic mastering if you've already done your editing beforehand. Maybe give that a test. What does it do? Does it take ums out? Does it just take out static? I'm not sure. So there's that. It does obviously integrate very easily with other podcast directories. There is a free tier available for this one, but the episodes expire after 90 days, which is kind of like, what's maybe if you're just giving it a go, or you wanted a very short-term project where you were basically saying, hey, I have all of these coaching episodes and I just want to, have these up, but I'm not sure. It could only be one episode after 90 days. I know, here I am trying to give you the most information, but then I'm like, but I'm not sure. And it doesn't mean that I haven't used these. It just means that sometimes I change them between the time that I'm even recording this to the time that it actually comes out. So yeah, Buzzsprout does have an amazing archive feature. I will say that is amazing. So you would pay, I think it's like $12 a month is their first tier as of right now, could be more. And then if you, for whatever reason, decide in 6 months, a year, whatever, you don't want to upload any more episodes to your podcast player, you're done with your podcast, you can actually archive it, and it's like $5 a month, and your podcast will live on. People can still download it. You can still look at your stats. You just can't upload anything. So that's actually kind of a nice feature if you wanted to keep your podcast and not have to pay the monthly fee. Well, there's still a monthly fee, but it's a lower monthly fee, right? Something pretty sustainable if you wanted to. Otherwise, they do have the all-in-one. When you are ready to get started, you upload that trailer. You can click on that button and it will send it out to all of the different hosting platforms. It's really nice and easy. You don't have to go into each one or anything like that. Sends out the RSS feed every single time. You never have to worry about, going in and all of that, updating any of those on any of the platforms. Again, occasional spot check, always recommended there. Now, the paid tiers do have different tiering prices for different pieces. Like I mentioned earlier, is the magic mastering. Well, there's a little bit of an additional fee for the magic mastering. There is a little bit of a different fee for different pieces, different parts. Definitely for the HSL, they do just start HSL. So that is getting your video up onto Apple. They definitely have a different tiered pricing for that. And then you can add in dynamic ads. With Buzzsprout, the issue with the dynamic ads that I have found is that you can add a beginning roll, you can add an ending roll, and you can add a mid roll, but you're only allowed one for each. So I believe all episodes would have to have the same intro, beginning roll. All episodes would have to have the same end roll. All episodes would have to have the same mid-roll if you wanted to do that. That is not going to work for me because I like to have each episode have its own, separate intro roll, beginning roll, mid-roll. I'm sorry, intro roll. I'm drawing a blank on that beginning roll name. Let me look that up real quick. It is called specifically pre-roll. My goodness, pre-roll, post-roll. I don't know. I couldn't remember the terminology of it, but So it does have the ability to have pre-roll, a mid-roll, and a post-roll if you wanted to. Now, again, it's the same one for pre-roll, it's the same one for post-roll, and then the same one for mid-roll. I don't know that it will let you do one of each, but when you change it, they only allow you to change it to one. You can upload multiple, but they only allow you to have one for every episode. And the other thing about Buzzsprout, last time I did a mid-roll for a client, it automatically adds in this weird little chime. And now when I create an ad or something for a mid-roll, I actually start it with their own music, just a little bit of it to let the audience know that there's going to be an ad coming. Then they do the ad. Then I do a little bit of the music at the end to let them know the ad's finishing. So having that little chime or music ahead of it is kind of like a little weird. But yeah, there's like a little chime. And I couldn't find the way to remove that. So maybe you can, but I was not able to last time I played with it, which I think was, probably last year at this time. Now that particular client just bakes in the ads because they don't like the chime. Oh, there's that. Now, the other hosting platform that I'm amazing at, by the way, I actually have a course that is very specific to this platform too, is Captivate. So if you are interested in my Captivate course, please, I will actually leave a link down below and you can actually just make a purchase and buy that. And it's basically everything you need to know about Captivate. And if you have any questions about Captivate, I will actually just do another video about it because Captivate is always changing and just like all the other platforms and is improving and doing other things. Now here is, again, I love Captivate, have an affiliate link. It's down below in my show notes as well. But here's some of the things. They are based in the UK. So if you have a really stickler of a bank like I do, you have to let the bank know that you are going to be having a withdrawal from the UK on a monthly basis. So my payment is actually made via a different credit card than my normal credit cards because my bank specifically is very stickler on they don't allow it unless I approve it. And I'm not approving that every month because whatever. So just know that. Okay. They do also, if you're in the United States, they may also tack on like a little, your credit card may tack on a little fee for the conversion rate. Okay. So just know that is probably a con to this particular hosting platform. Otherwise, you can have unlimited podcasts for just the one fee, for the one price. What it does is it bases it off of how many downloads you have had. So if you're over a certain number of downloads, then you have to move up to the next tier. A lot of times, that's not a bad thing, right? So if you're having that many downloads, that means that many people are coming in. That's not a bad thing. So I would happily move up to the next tier if you're doing that. I can also have one podcast behind a paywall. All on the same tier, by the way, all in the same tier. So my $19 or the $19 tier is what I'm on. And you can have one podcast behind a paywall. So I can have multiple podcasts if I wanted to, one podcast behind a paywall, which would be great for like coaching clients or just if I wanted to do this podcast series as a paid feature later down in the line, I could do that. And they will actually connect right to your Stripe and they'll take that money for you and all that too. So that's cool. I did not mention, and I will back up just a smidgen. What Captivate just rolled out is monetization. And I don't know anything about it because literally that phone call is happening or that YouTube call is happening like right now as I'm recording this. So I don't know much about that. Although Buzzsprout does have a monetization feature for your podcast inside of Buzzsprout. So I forgot to tell you about that on Buzzsprout. Captivate is catching up. They are doing that as well. Captivate also does have the HSL with Apple. And just so you know, again, it's an additional fee. There's additional fees for everything. Captivate does also have an additional fee for like AI content. It's, I think, another $5 a month added on to the 19. And what it does is it will automatically do a transcription. And it will automatically give you ideas for your titles. It will give you SEO information. It'll give you a bunch of information. I've been testing it out for about maybe 6-8 months now. It's okay. I think I have to give it more information. I have to really massage it a little bit more, and I've not done that. So that's something to note about that. Now, Captivate also does keep track of your guests and actually allows the guests to upload their information and whatnot to the Captivate platform. I have not found that to be as useful as I want it to be. It doesn't seem to allow all the questions that I would like. So there's also another kind of like, okay, that's good, but not good. It does allow you to take different episodes and kind of look at multiple episodes at once, which is so easy, so nice when you're doing stats. Because when I am doing stats for a client, what I will do sometimes is I will say maybe the last 4 or 5 episodes, I'll just go, 28, 29, 30, 31. I want to see the stats for those. And it will pop it up onto like a graph. And then basically I can just go and find it, which is so nice because then I can see everything all at once. Whereas other ones, you have to go into each one individually, which is a bummer sometimes. Let's see, as far as other bits and pieces, dynamic content is unmatched. I've not found another one like this. I can have a different pre-roll. I remember the word. You can have a different pre-roll, a different post-roll, and a different mid-roll for every single episode, every single thing. So I can do a pre-roll, which I do in all of my episodes that are on audio only, not here in YouTube if you're watching on YouTube. But I can do a pre-roll and have that different for every single episode. And it does it seamlessly, flawlessly, perfectly. I can do a totally different mid-roll ad for every single episode if I wanted to. And here's the beauty of it. They actually have a little section of monetization where you can actually send somebody. They can pay you for like a mid-roll ad. They can record the ad and then upload that. And then what will happen is you can add that in and say you want to add that in for like only 4 episodes because that's what they paid for. You could do that. And then it will only be in for those 4 episodes. And it can be in for all 4, every single episode for 4 weeks, or it could be, 4. You make that decision. It's really intuitive in that direction, in that way. It's really good. There is a little bit of a different learning curve for Captivate than Buzzsprout, which is one of the reasons why I created a course on this, because there's so much inside of it, right? There's still all the basics, upload your cover art, upload your name, you can change your name, your title, all of that, your description, anytime you can do that. And they actually also, all 3 of them I've talked about today, they also do their own website. So if you wanted to have a website, it does have the name of it, like Libsyn.com in the website, but you can do a website for every one of them. Captivate also has a plugin for WordPress. So if you are using a WordPress website, you can do that. You can connect that. There's just a lot of different pieces. And that's one of the reasons why I came up with a little mini course on that, just because there's so much, right? So a couple of others I want to just give just some like honorable mentions. There we go. Honorable mentions to Spotify for creators. It's free. It used to be formerly called Anchor. It is free, but they don't allow a lot of space in the description. I have had a client one time tell me that their old episodes were archived and they were unable to get them. I've only had the one client do that and tell me that. I think she got them all back, I think. But it was kind of scary, right? We don't want that. We want them all to be available all the time. So I'm not sure what happened there. It does have some types of built-in recording tools. They really kind of hide the stats. They want to show you where Spotify stats are, but they want to kind of hide the other stats. They also confuse you because they do by streams versus by downloads. And then it's like, well, is this a stream or is this a download? And what's the difference? So stream is based on 30 seconds of content, I think is currently what the stream definition is. So is that. It's way less robust than Buzzsprout or Captivate or Libsyn or almost any of the others. But if you are on a tight budget, it could be a good option. You can move over to any platform at any time. That's a simple, easy thing to do, by the way. So if you wanted to start on Spotify for podcasters and then move over to Buzzsprout, you can absolutely do that whenever your pocketbook says you can. Now, other ones that I want to mention that I have, I've had clients work on Podbean, Spreaker, um, RSS.com. If you listened to episode 070 earlier this week, then you know that Delphine was using just Squarespace, which I think is just amazing, but no stats. So there's that. Transistor is another one. Castos, I believe. So yeah, lots of different choices out there. Oh, I had one client. She told me the name of one and I couldn't even remember. I was like, I've never even heard of that one. There's hero.fm. There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch. Something for every price point, something for every person. So you make your own decision on that. There's also ones that just do private podcasting, like Hello Audio does just private podcasts. So you could do that too if you wanted to. It wouldn't necessarily be for a regular free podcast if you wanted to go that route, because there's like you would want to connect your payment structure and all that to that, which again, you can in Captivate if you wanted to have a private podcast. It's behind a paywall. So there's that. All of these will connect to Spotify and to Apple and to all of those. Here's the other thing that people ask. Well, do I have to check Apple for my stats? Do I have to check Spotify for my stats? Hopefully not if your podcasting hosting platform is connected. If it's connected to that, hopefully your hosting platform already aggregates all that information. And the only one you would have to check is YouTube. YouTube just doesn't play nice when aggregating stats. So you wouldn't necessarily need to log into Apple Podcasts on a regular basis or Spotify for a regular basis, unless you're using Spotify for creators, of course. But I'm talking about, looking specifically for those streams in that case, those downloads. So yeah. So that's just a little bit of information about some of my favorite podcast hosting platforms and some of the others that are out there. You'll need to make your own decision on which hosting platform to choose, to use, to like, to want to move forward with. If you find you're not happy with one, you do not have to stay. I actually initially started my very first podcast years and years ago on Buzzsprout and moved it quickly over to Captivate. I just wanted more features. I wanted more things to play with, and I just love Captivate. So yeah, so that's where I am. Again, Buzzsprout's very easy. Buzzsprout allows you to add team members. Captivate allows you to add team members. Libsyn, I don't know about Libsyn. I imagine they probably do, but I am not. I just log in as my client on that one. So there's that. So if you have a team member that is doing your editing or your uploading or you might want to review that and see if they allow that. But and you can have different tiers so they can check your stats, or maybe they can't, things like that. So yeah. But if you're looking for somebody that you want to do multiple shows, I highly suggest Captivate. If you're looking for some, monetization or maybe magic mastering, maybe you don't want to do the next level of your editing. You don't want to use Auphonic, for instance. Maybe Buzzsprout's the place to go. So your choice. That's why there's so many, right? That's why there's one for everybody. And your hosting really, it matters because that's where everything goes. But the content, right? How you get out there, make sure you get yourself out there. That's the most important part of this. So don't let this decision stop you. Just choose one, go with it. And again, if you don't like it, you can always move. You can always change it to something different. Absolutely. There's nothing wrong with that. And yeah, go have fun, go play, go give them all a try, or give one or two a try. And a lot of them have free test drives. So go in, get a test drive out and see which one you like, which one fits your brain the most. Because let's face it, everybody learns a little bit differently, right? Whether that's audio, video, reading, or maybe it's a combination of the two or three, or, so how is your brain going to work with Libsyn or Buzzsprout or Captivate or Podbean or Spreaker, or you choose. And I'm super excited that you're at the hosting platform stage and you are ready to get your voice out to the world. So remember, where your voice flows, your business grows. And until next time, this is Kim Parkinson. You've been listening to Podcasting for Your Spiritual Business. See you soon. Thank you so much for being here and spending this time with me today. If you're ready to deepen your visibility and grow your podcast in a way that feels aligned, come join my email list at kpcreativemedia.com/newsletter, where I share exclusive guidance, support, and next steps. And if this episode resonated, I'd be so honored if you left a review on Apple Podcasts. It's one of the most powerful ways to support the show and help other spiritual women discover it. Until next time, keep showing up and sharing your voice.